Of course, much of the discussion on SNC today was in reaction to news this morning that an RCMP investigation has been hindered by the federal government. The article was published in the Globe and Mail. And for more, I want to bring in the journalist who broke not only the original SNC-Lavalin story, but who also co-authored today's update. Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Globe and Mail, Robert Fife, joins me from Ottawa. Hi, Bob.
Hi, Jennifer.
So let me ask you to respond to Justin Trudeau's reasoning for why the RCMP have been stymied in their investigation. He says it's up to the Clerk of the Privy Council.
Well, that just doesn't hold any water. The Clerk of the Privy Council is in effect the Deputy Minister to the Prime Minister. He takes his marching orders from the Prime Minister, not the other way around. And the Prime Minister is the head of Cabinet, not the Clerk. And so the Prime Minister is the one who can waive Cabinet confidences if he so chooses to do so. And his decision to try to say, oh, this is the decision made by the Clerk of the Privy Council is simply one that doesn't hold up to scrutiny. And, you know, and the issue here is, leaving the politics aside, this is a serious issue where you have the RCMP wanting to investigate potential obstruction of justice involving the Prime Minister and his top officials in trying to interfere in a criminal prosecution of SNC-Lavalin, which is a large Quebec engineering company. You know, this is not something that should be simply brushed aside. As we found out from the Ethics Commissioner, 9 witnesses wanted to come forward because they said they had relevant information on this SNC-Lavalin issue, and they were prevented from doing so because the government would not waive Cabinet confidentiality. In that particular case, Mr. Trudeau again said, oh, this was the clerk's responsibility. He had nothing to do with it. Well, of course that's not true, because the buck stops with the Prime Minister. He is the guy who's sits at the head of the Cabinet table, not the clerk. And so I don't know how big of an issue this is going to be in the election campaign, but for Canadians who are concerned about political interference in the judicial process and efforts by what appears to be the government's unwillingness to allow the RCMP to conduct a thorough investigation should be cause for concern.
Bob, what recourse does the RCMP have to compel these witnesses, though?
Nothing. They can't do a thing. Cabinet confidentiality is entrenched in this country. It's also part of the law of the land. The RCMP cannot compel anybody to breach the confidentiality provisions. They can speak to any witness that they want, but if those people are covered by Cabinet confidentiality, the RCMP cannot force them to do so.
To Trudeau's point, though, were those Cabinet confidences to be breached, does that not set up a slippery slope in the future? I mean, would we see a Conservative government allow for a breach of Cabinet confidence?
Well, we've seen this in the past. For example, in 1987, for example, Brian Mulroney waived Cabinet confidentiality for an RCMP criminal investigation into one of his former ministers for a land swap deal. This same thing, Cabinet confidentiality, was waived in a criminal case that was looking into a former Liberal cabinet minister named John Munro back in the mid-1980s. And the most significant one was the Gomery inquiry into the sponsorship scandal, when then Prime Minister Paul Martin gave the most extensive waiver in Canadian history, in which they turned over all documents and allowed all officials to be able to testify before the Gomery inquiry. And just recently, the former Prime Minister Stephen Harper waived Cabinet confidentiality in the Mike Duffy case, as well as waiving Cabinet confidentiality for any documents that were part of his government and dealing with the Vice Admiral Mark Norman's prosecution. So there's plenty of precedents of governments willingly handing over cabinet government documents and allowing witnesses to speak And so, I mean, Mr. Trudeau is really kind of alone here on this.
Yeah, fascinating. Well, we'll continue to follow this story, as I know you will. Ottawa Bureau Chief for the Globe and Mail, Bob Fife, always good to have you on. Thank you.